And so now I represent all of the universities in the United States that have any kind of recreation program. I'm their representative on the board of standards, Council for the Advancement of Standards. And there are about 40 different places that are represented. So areas where they focus on advising, housing, residential housing, counseling and psychological services, all of those different entities within the institution, they have a set of standards. We write those standards. And then we help develop self-assessment guides. We'll talk a little bit about self-assessment when we start to talk about quality management. I'm also a commissioner. There's one of five. I'm one of the first commissioners for the collegiate, the registry for the collegiate recreational sports professional. And what that means is, really, we are the group that focuses on the professional development aspects of the people that work in our field. And so we're really trying to help them understand assessment, quality management. Do they have the background and understanding of how to apply that discipline? The interesting thing about everything that I've worked on, I've worked in applied disciplines. You know, so when I sit and I go with Dr. Teresa and we go to these meetings, and I'm talking to the faculty of business, I'm talking to the faculty of education, and I'm talking to the faculty of communication, I work in all of those areas. As a matter of fact, I'm going to leave here, and the next semester I'll be teaching a class on finance and marketing, a graduate level. And so what you start to look at is you start to realize that while we are all focused on the disciplines, most of what goes on in the world is not discipline specific. Most of the problems that we have in the world are not discipline specific. Diabetes is not a discipline specific disease. It is a social, economic, health. So you start to look at applied discipline. How do you apply your discipline? Much of what I talk about today will go into that. And then this focus on assessment, I'm also a academic quality improvement process, our project reviewer for the Higher Learning Commission, which is our accreditation association. I've been doing that for 2 years now, and I've had 14 different projects I've looked at. We'll kind of explore some of those things because your project today, and it's going to be rather interesting when we have so many people, your project today is going to be actually to develop an academic quality improvement project. Not in your specific area, but how you work together to see what a universal outcome could be. I have also on a research and assessment committee where I am the chair of the assessment conference. So this year we'll be working with another professional association, and we will develop an assessment conference for them. We'll look at accountability, we'll look at systems in higher education, and we'll help those folks working in both the American or the Association of College Personnel Administrators and those people working in recreation. Will help them develop learning outcomes, and will help them make their programs more accountable to the accreditation process. I've also presented at the Ohio State University, which is my younger brother up north of the state. I've done 2 different presentations for them. So I'm starting to really focus on that, and then of course I talk about the Harvard conference. We're going to be looking at basically these 5 elements, and I've tried to color code them. We are currently going through a paradigm shift in higher education. It is what I call in some cases back to the future, where we're not looking, we're not totally focused on just the discipline, but we're talking about looking at a set of universal learning outcomes. Now, you'll see this graphic to the right. How many people see the old lady in the picture? You can raise your hand if you see the old lady in the picture. How many people see the young woman in the picture? You got to see one of the two, or you just don't see what's going on there. You either see an old lady, or you see her. Or how many people see both? Both, yeah. See both, right? And so we see the old lady. Her chin is down here. Her hook nose. She's kind of looking grim. She's had that life experience where she's just had the pressure of the world on her shoulders. And then we see this beautiful young. This is her chin. That nice straight line with that deep chin. You don't even see her eyes. You see a little bit of her nose up here, and then you see that beautiful hair. It doesn't make any difference if you see the young woman or the old woman, or both women. The view is that you need to look and understand that there's multiple views. We don't want to discard everything that's happened in the past. We don't want to discard tradition. We don't want to discard culture. What we want to do is we want to see how that infuses in the new higher education model. If you don't think higher education is changing in the world today, you haven't been looking. Between massive open online courses, between Ohio University coming to Jordan, we just came back from Malaysia where we presented at a university there at a conference. We are an interconnected world. The internet has flattened the organization, as Thomas Friedman has said. And so we have to start looking at things from a different paradigm, a different perspective. I always like to tell my students, you know, one of the best things to do to impress your parents is going home and telling them what epistemology means. How do you know what you know? How do you view life? So when they go home and they tell their parents don't know what the heck epistemology is, but you can impress them. That's a nice four-letter word, or four-syllable word. So we're going to look at accountability, we're going to assess quality, then we're going to look at some learning outcomes, and then I'm going to get to a case study of one of the 8-foot projects. And then it's your turn. You get to develop a project. Try not to trip over this stuff. Higher education is a system. Prior to the recent changes in higher education, we have focused on two things: inputs and process. We've focused on the quality of our students coming in, and we focused on the process of trying to get them through in an industrial model. We feed them a lot of information, we hope it catches, we test them, and then we let them go. Higher education is now about outputs and feedback. Higher education really is, what knowledge do you have, what do you know, and are able to do as a result of attending college? How do you take that information that you have, how do you apply that, and how do you put it into use? For the betterment of yourself, the betterment of your society, the betterment of mankind. All right? So we flipped it. We changed it. That's the paradigm shift. The old lady and the young lady. But you can't just discard the inputs. You can't just say, well, we won't care about that. Now, there are some people that said this concept of selectivity is not important. We need to let everybody into higher education. I'm not necessarily sure we need to go that way. We certainly need to get our K-12 programs up to where they can bring in quality people that can actually understand this. But at the same time, we cannot just focus on those 10% of students and hope that they're going to be totally successful. I will tell you that Dr. Teresa and myself are two completely different prepared students for college.
Sometimes we are forced to deal with specific outcomes. Sometimes we are forced to deal with specific outcomes. We can't choose our outcome.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, it's there, right? But we have to be able to adjust to that. But no matter who's in, I came here thinking I was going to have 15 meetings. So I have a choice now, right? My inputs have already been established because I don't have 15 people anymore. Now I have to start to adjust. So my process is going to adjust a little bit. My output I still want to be the same. I still want you to be able to understand what academic quality improvement process is. I still want you to understand what quality management is all about. So you're absolutely right. You can't control the input sometimes. If you can, then you're going to adjust that process. But I think what I'm trying to tell or really focus on is this concept that that's always been focused on. And that's the easiest way, by